Hi, it's Melinda from Hope When There Was None. I hope you're having a great day. I wanted to come on. I did blog post earlier, and it kind of got me thinking that I would rather come on live just to give these tips as well because they're very important. I do have folks that reach out to me and ask, well, what should I do? Or I'm getting ready to leave. What do I need to be thinking about? So I compiled a list from some of my other blog posts, as well as just things that I know I've been knocking around and things I've learned. So before you drop this bombshell, what I'd like you to think about is, and I do have my notes, so I'm going to be looking at them, is your relationship worth saving? Now, before you say, Melinda, stop, honestly, is this relationship worth saving? Is it something perhaps that can be worked on? It can be something that could be managed with medication? Is it something that you could just go to counseling for and fix? Perhaps it's a drug and alcohol problem if this person gets in rehab, because maybe they're only abusive when they're drinking or using drugs. Is this something that can be fixed? So please ask yourself before you make this move, because this is a big move. And not that I'm taking any of it lightly. Whatever you're experiencing, I don't take it lightly. And I'm not living with you. You can gauge exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So is it also maybe that they're a bully and don't even realize it? I've come, again, a few people that I've chatted with, they did mention that the person was very mouthy and they didn't realize it. Once it was brought to their attention, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose this man or woman, whoever, and I love this person very much. And they got themselves into counseling, and a couple of them still have great relationships. So think about that. So counseling might actually resolve this. On the off chance it doesn't, stick with me, okay? First of all, remember, you can't fix this person. You can't, this isn't a project. Whoever this person is, he or she is not a project for you to fix. If they're having some issues and you think maybe bringing a child into the relationship might solve the issues, it won't. More than likely, this is something they brought to the relationship and they might not have exhibited right away. They could have been really sweet and awesome. All of a sudden, boom, something happens, something tragic. They lose a job, money is tight, bills, so on and so on. And then this person might just, like a light switch, just kind of flip. And then you're like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? So you then think, okay, well, if it only happens when this, that, or the other happens, perhaps then I could fix it. You can't fix this person. Okay, so just remember, this person's not a project for you. They have free will. And if maybe your family or friends have pointed out the negative behavior, I'm sure they aren't going to change. If they mentioned it to your partner, more than likely they're not going to change. So please don't think that this is a fix for this person, that you need to, get married to this person and everything will be okay. No, you have to change your frame of mind. This is not a project for you to work on. So let's go now to leaving. Now, I would like you to consider leaving when your partner is not home or is going to be gone for a long period of time. Also, maybe you would like to consider learning your work, also the children's school, if you have children together, and start gathering important paperwork. And I'm going to have a list of those right now. So if you're concerned that your partner will notice that these are gone, make copies of the original. And more than likely, the copies will go just unnoticed. I mean, if they stay in the folders or wherever you have them, and you can keep the originals if you can, if you feel like that, if you're able to. This is going to sound very cloak and dagger, but this is your life that you're talking about, and you are going to have to be a little sneaky. And it might not be in your nature to do so. It's hard to carry on. Hi, Tammy. It's very hard to carry on the guise of being happy and joyful and still staying with this person when you know deep in your heart that you are ready to leave. So it's very hard. You're going to have to keep up this facade in order to do so. So I'm going to give you some ideas right now, but I'm going to put this in a PDF. You can also find my blog on hopewhentherewasnone.blogspot.com, and you can find it there, or again, a PDF if you're interested. Let me know. I'm happy to go ahead and forward that to you. So here's some ideas: marriage certificate, birth certificate, social security cards, bills, your loans for student loans, your car loans, credit cards, medical bills, any financial records, like your 401k as an example, any investments. So these are things that you're going to have to take with you, okay? So I have a long list of more. Medical records would include your shot records for your children, diplomas, passports, pay stubs. Now, if your partner is getting some money under the table and you somehow have a way, some sort of paper trail that is evidence, please bring that with you. You're going to need this information for attorneys down the line, and they're going to want to know this information. Your income tax records, mortgage and rent contracts. If you have a business, if you're running one, you would need those contacts. So, and maybe perhaps you have a business with your partner and you wish to start again, maybe in a new state or whatever the reason, keep those business contacts. And all of your contacts, for that matter, get an old-fashioned phone book. And I'm going to get to this later where you can put that phone book. But get an old-fashioned phone book and hold on to that information. You may have to change phones, but I'll get into that too. So have any, let's see, emergency contacts for sure noted in your phone book. So let's say for some reason, and I would not wish this on anybody, but for some reason, this goes bad, this turns south, goes sideways, and you need medical help. Perhaps you're knocked unconscious. Now, I'm talking real stuff, guys. I'm not trying to put on airs that this is all going to be hunky-dory. This is very serious. So let's say you're unconscious, but let's just say that. I don't want to say anything worse. Put in your phone book somehow, give it to a loved one, and mark that this is an emergency contact. Perhaps you have somebody in a will. You might want to bring a will too, a copy of that. But make sure that somehow it's noted that it's maybe a family member or a loved one, and you really want them to be alerted if something goes sideways. So let's go back. Any protective orders that you have currently or that you had in the past. Now, why would I want past protective orders? Nothing happened. I got back together with the person, but this shows a history. You want to have a paper trail. So with the protective orders too, any photographic evidence that you have, any text messages that you have, emails that you have, you're going to start leaving a paper trail starting when you decide to leave. So now's an important time to start. Have this information readily available too. Any old bankruptcy discharges that you might have. Any other legal information, like let's say you have a ticket, perhaps you have a summons, any lawsuits that you might have pending, immigration paperwork, you might need a green card, any custody papers that you have. Pretend, let's say that you are already gone or for some reason he's out of the house or she's out of the house, have custody paperwork. Journals, if you have been keeping track of your history, what's been going on, take those journals with you. And again, include the dates with the information with photographs and so on. It's very important to have a date of how this escalated and what is this something that's frequent and so on like that. So when I talked about that phone book, so what are you going to do with it? You got this phone book. One, you can keep it in your purse. No big deal. Your abuser probably won't give it a second glance. But you might want to get a P.O. box. Now, P.O. boxes are pretty inexpensive. They could be upwards, I think, $60 or more a year. I'm not quite sure on that for your particular area, so you do have to check in on that, but it's rather inexpensive. You can get your information, future information, sent to your P.O. box. It's much safer than your partner doesn't need to know where you're going. So it is like a safety thing for you. And also, you may want to, if you can't do that, perhaps you don't have the funds to do this, have your mail sent to a trusted family member or a friend, if they feel comfortable, of course, doing so. Now, going to mail, let's talk about email address. If you change your email address, you may want to also change your passwords. I just did a video on affirmations for passwords. So something like I am strong, I am amazing, and so on and so on. But change your password. Your partner more than likely is going to cyber stalk you. And yes, January is Stalking Awareness Month. So don't be surprised if your partner is cyber stalking you or just physically stalking you or having somebody else look for you. It might be a family member, might be a friend, it could be a stranger you don't even know. And so, I mean, this is something very, very, very big. They might be going to all your old haunts, all of your old places you went together, your shopping stores, and so on like that. And trust me, I've experienced this. It is very scary to have someone stalking you, especially if it's someone you do not know. And I had someone doing that for a number of months for me early on. So it's very scary. Now, for cyber stalking, again, all of this is illegal. So call your police station, local law enforcement, call whoever you need to, maybe alert Facebook that something fishy is going on or whatever other social media you're on, and let everybody know that you're being cyber stalked if it's on the computer. Now, also, going back to things you could do before you leave, open up a banking account. If you can. I did squirrel away, like one of the banks I went to, I did squirrel away $25 in order to open an account. I did have my sister have the paper statement sent to her address instead. Nowadays, you can do that electronically. Again, this new address, email address, comes in very handy. So if you have paper statements, or excuse me, electronic statements, you could just forward them onto your new email address. Your partner doesn't have to know about them. Please, please, please make sure when you're watching videos such as this or reading information about leaving your abuser, please do me a favor and delete your history. If it's not safe, if your partner is savvy and knows in and outs about computers, please delete your history on your phone, on your computers. Please be careful, okay? And again, there are programs that can be used to monitor your computer usage and stuff for tracking your phone. So if you're visiting attorneys and thinking your partner might not know, make sure that tracking is turned off on your phone, your GPS. So now, if you have new digs, let's say you have a new place, you're lucky enough to have one that your partner doesn't know, or maybe it's a long lost cousin, whatever it is, start taking things. Like, let's say, I'm not saying big things, like you're not going to take the extra car, you're not going to take, you know what I mean, leave the toaster, things that are going to go unnoticed. What I mean by that is like maybe there's some seasonal clothes. It's wintertime right now. So perhaps if their summer clothes are gone, you could just say, oh, the kids outgrew them, or I'm looking for something else, I'm going to go to the thrift store. Whatever the excuse you need to use it. So get some old clothes. Also, go through any bedding, any towels. So this is a good time to purge. So you're going to go through any towels, any sheets, mattresses, whatever it is. Think hard what you don't need in the house that you can get rid of that will go unnoticed. I mean, very important. So it gives you something to start out with when you leave. I mean, even something as minuscule as a few cans of food. You could set a little box of food aside or a couple cans and give it to your family friend or whatever. The point is, try and make yourself a home. I went in, and luckily my last time I left, and yes, I'm going to share because I think it's important that I get this out, that you know I've been there. So I shared information with my sister, let her know that I had to go. So during this time, I started taking little things. I started taking kids' games, small things that they hadn't played with in a while, but I know they'd be interested again. I took a small toiletries we had extra of, just a couple to get us started, and the extra towels. I had extra blankets because we do accumulate those. Hi, Michelle. We do accumulate those. So I did do that on the sly, and these were things, again, that weren't missed. Now, let's say that it's time to go. Now, think about these few things. Think about these. Again, none of this should be taken lightly. I do suggest strongly that you reach out to law enforcement and let them know what's going on. This is very important. Or also call a shelter and let them know. Now, this, by all means, or even a protective order, is you need to talk to somebody to get a professional safety plan. This are just giving you some tips, some general guidelines. But please call a shelter, make an appointment for one if you need to, or talk to somebody over the phone, talk to your police officers in your area, and let them know what's going on. They will give you the best advice for your situation and how to handle it. So let's say I'd like you to think about how is your partner going to react to this news? Are they going to be violent? Is there going to be physical harm before you leave? Or will you be asking your partner to leave? So let's say you are going to ask your partner to leave. You might want to get the police on board for this to let them know that. Also, if you might need to leave by police escort, and hopefully when this happens, you might have maybe a friend come with you, during this time when you make this big news that you want to leave. So if you call the police and tell them, hey, I'm going to leave today, and my partner's going to be home at 5 o'clock, as an example, and I know that they're not going to be happy when I leave. So can you please come and just stay in the parking lot or help me get escorted out? They will come and help you. Please understand that. These guys and women are not your enemy. They see this stuff all the time. They do get a little desensitized by it, but because more often than not, the partner goes back, the victim goes back. So they're used to seeing it. So again, sometimes you might not have the best reaction, but I'm hoping you do in your situation. Now, they aren't going to dilly-dally. They're not going to say, well, yeah, go through the house and get everything you need. No, you might have 10 to 15 minutes, if that, to get everything you need and go. So you leave everything else. You leave the TV, you leave the PS4, you grab your babies, your fur babies, your children, and go. That's it. You might have time to grab some clothes, but leave. That's it. Everything else can be sorted out later. Who cares if this person has a garage sale later on? Big deal. You are more important. You're more important. I had another blog post. You're more important than a toaster. You are getting out with your life, being safe. That is much more important. So think about that. Now, also, kind of going on with number one here that I just talked about, very important. Does your partner have a gun or some sort of weapon in the home? The police are going to want to know this, and this is very important. So let's say this person does have a weapon in the home. What I'd like you to do is maybe misplace it. If you can, if you feel comfortable enough to do that, make sure if it's under lock and key, make sure the key goes missing. Something to delay. Also, make sure when you're dropping this bombshell that you're not in the same room that weapon's in. Now, this might be kind of hard if there's knives around. You're in the kitchen if that happens, but please be careful. You don't want to get backed into a corner, and if you do get backed into a corner, the best thing to do is get into a ball and cover your head and your hands. You're going to do this. You want to cover everything. You're going to be in a ball. You're going to cover your vital parts with your legs. You're going to just curl up as small as you can because you don't want any harm to your face, your vital organs, your heart, and so on. It's going to be hard. You might be kicked and I don't want to get into grim details, but you know what I'm talking about, and I want you to be safe and to think about all scenarios. And this is very important. So if you're going to be in a situation where you're fighting, try and make sure you know where the exits are. If you're in your own home, you should know where the exits are. Make sure there's a window. Somehow, if you can get help, don't go in the same spot where the kids are, okay? If your kids are hiding up on a different part of the house, leave them there. If you take the fight there or you run to there because you think you're going to help them, you might actually be dragging that danger to that room, and you want to protect your children. So please, keep the kids away, leave them wherever they're at, leave them hiding, and you may want to teach them 911. Teach them not only 911, but their address. Teach them your name. So when they call 911 and the 911 operator says, oh, what's your mom's name, your mommy's name, and they just say, mommy or daddy, or whatever it is, please let them know what your name is, your full name, last name, first name and last name. It's very important. And even your abuser, what is that person's name too? If you could teach them the address, that's awesome. A lot of nowadays, of course, they have the tracking systems, but it's helpful. Please teach your children. And it's not only helpful just in this situation, but going forward, fire and so on. So let's also talk about keeping your phone on you. So during this big mess, let's say it's on and you decided to drop this bombshell and your phone's on the charger. No. You get your phone, make sure it's on you. And if you can, do me a favor, put a person on. If you can't have a person with you while you're dropping this news, have maybe somebody there, your sister, your brother, or somebody else. Another person in this situation might diffuse it. So if there's three of you, it might diffuse the situation. Your partner might not be as violent or as physical as if they were by themselves with you. Okay. So, and if they can't do that, again, the phone, make sure you have a phone on and put it on and let the person that you talk to, let them know what's going on. So they're just listening. They're being a participant. They're just listening, which is scary as it is. But think about doing that, or calling 911 and leaving it on. So I know these are scary scenarios. Again, you have to think of all that you can. Also, let your neighbor help. or your friends or family. So let's say you are really close to your neighbor. They've heard situations, they've heard all the fighting and so on, so they know what's going on, and they've offered to help you. Think of maybe turning on a light off and on or something, some kind of signal that they know that you're not okay. Again, using from a previous video that I did, calling them and saying, hey, I would like cranberries, and it's the middle of July. Why would you want cranberries or cranberry sauce or whatever? But think of some kind of safe word that you can use with your neighbors or your family and friends that can help you too. And they know, okay, this is it. I got to call 911 and get this person help. Back your car into your parking spot. And I know that sounds silly, but any extra moment, you've got the kids in your hand and you are dashing, you got baby in your arms and you are dashing out the door. This mad person's behind you. I mean, picture this. This person's running behind you and they're trying to catch up to you and to do you harm. You need to make sure you have your key ready. If you have make sure if you have an auto start, that's terrific, but make sure your car is backed in to your driveway. Why? This is going to save you an extra step. Go ahead and put that car in reverse. I mean, let's say you did this. You put the car in reverse, you go forward, and whatever else you have, it's just making so many other steps. Making sure it's backed in at all times is going to save you a step. If you don't have the kid in the car seat, don't worry about it. Just get your butt to safety if you can. Go to the nearest police station immediately. Do not pass go. Do you get the picture? So also, keep your keys for your vehicle somewhere hidden, maybe in the wheel wells, maybe in a trunk, somewhere. If you've ever had the experience of being kicked out of your home with no clothes on, or very minimal clothes, or without a purse, without keys to your home, it's a very, very demeaning and very sad experience. So keeping a set of keys is very handy. Hide them. Then if you don't feel like you can get in the vehicle and just move away, let's say your partner has the kids in the house and you're outside, at least you can get in the car, warm it up, warm yourself up if you need to. It's a shelter until whatever blows over. Have a go bag ready. So what's a go bag? A go bag is going to be a bag that you keep in your car, and this should be, even regardless of this situation, it's important to have some extra clothes, maybe some blankets in there, a little bit of food, some water, and so on like that. But also you may want to keep some toiletries in there, a medication, a little bit of cash if you can too. And just keep this in your car or have it somewhere where you'll know that your partner won't be kind of like, what's that? Again, you're going to have to be sneaky here. So again, I did mention making sure you have a partner there, possibly a family member there when you make this news. So now telling the kids about what's going on, they might already have been, if they're young, I mean, really young, they have no idea. But if they're older, let's say they're ages 3 and up, they know what's going on. They've experienced it. They know exactly. They can verbalize the emotions and so on. And they also might be, on the flip side, they may be exhibiting behavior that's undesirable. They might be mirroring your abuser. They might have already started. So in that case, don't tell your kids that you're leaving until the day that you do so. And I know you might have teenagers and you're like, what? Again, don't do this, because they might be manipulated into saying, hey, mommy's got plans or daddy's got plans to leave. And they may do it innocently enough. Or on the flip side, if you have older children, they may sympathize with your abuser. They might actually just tell, well, mom's doing this or dad's doing this, whether they mean it vindictively or not. You have to protect yourself. And this might mean leaving that child behind. And that's very hard. That's probably one of the hardest things you're going to do. But you need to keep yourself safe. So, and it's not uncommon for a child to, even if you tell them ahead of time, to say, I'm going to tell on you. Don't be surprised if that happens. It might already have. So this is a big event in their life. They might, again, feel some sympathy towards your abuser. You may want to give them a choice. Let's say that they're 17 and they are going to graduate soon. You might want to give them a choice depending on how your abuse is it that they're being sexually abused? Are they being physically abused as well? All of these play into factors. If they're not being abused as well and they're getting along with your partner, because that can happen, they may choose to stay. They might not want to be uprooted to a new school or a new area. So trust me, again, I've been in your shoes. You and your children, once you leave, you and your children are more than likely going to experience almost like a withdrawal. It's kind of a crazy thing. You may even crave your abuser, and it's not that you want him back, but the craziness, being normal, is going to seem very, very strange. What I mean by that, you're so used to being up here in this fight or flight mode all the time that when you come down here and you leave and this weight is off your shoulder because you're not being abused anymore, it's going to feel very awkward. It's going to be very weird. So you're going to have to start reprogramming yourself and your children. But talking with attorneys, talking with your GALs, any other law officials, police, and so on, you might feel like a victim again. Okay, so you may have bad dreams around this time. Anytime you tell your story, you may have nightmares. The kids could experience bedwetting nightmares. They could have behavior issues. Don't be surprised if health issues even escalate around this time, because even though you're gone, it's still crazy. It's still nuts. I'd say until, I don't know if, depending on how long you've been in the relationship, half of that time is about half of that crazy. So if you've been in a relationship for about 20 years, then half of that, for about 10 years, it's going to be a little crazy. And I know that seems like a long time. You're leaving and you want instant results. It takes work to get back to healing. It really does. So anyway, don't be surprised if there's Stockholm Syndrome. You might discover you have these PTSD, and all of these can be related to your abuse. Counseling does help. Please see a licensed professional for that. Now, again, I know this is a lot to digest because this is big, guys. This is really big. Planning in advance has its advantages. Now, the disadvantage is when planning, you're staying longer, waiting for the right time. And you'll know it when you have it. So you may have not made that choice to go right away. And either case, no matter which case you go, please be careful. You don't want them to find out your plans in advance because that can have repercussions. So please be careful. You might also rationalize why you're planning. Well, maybe it's not that bad. He just calls me a few names, or it's not that bad. He's never broken a bone, or perhaps, he's only bad when he drinks. It's still abuse. No matter how you paint it, it is still abuse. And it, even if they lose control once in a while, that's one too many. Okay? So they could use mind games, whatever it is. And again, if the kids are experiencing this, more than likely, do you want them to repeat this pattern? That's what you have to ask yourself. Now, don't be surprised after you've left if your family and friends, or it could be on his side or her side, are suddenly spies for him or her. Now, they might take your partner's side. Now, you know the old saying, blood is thicker than water, and that can be very true. So don't be surprised if that happens, and you might be hurt, especially if these are people that you've been with for a very long time. This could be very hurtful. Lastly, again, very important about your kids. Let them know that they're not to blame, that this behavior is not acceptable. This is very unacceptable behavior for a person to be doing, and they shouldn't be treating mom or dad this way at all. And that it's, again, not their fault. None of this is their fault, and that you're trying to get help. So I guess that's in a nutshell. That's about it right now. I do have a private group for survivors and victims of abuse, and I try and put some videos on there, some uplifting material as well for them. If anybody has any questions, you can let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I've covered a lot. It's a lot to digest, as I mentioned. There's a lot to think about when you're going to leave, and it's not something that should be taken lightly. And planning, I did plan for when I left my last time. That was in 2009, and we are coming up on a 10-year anniversary on February 25th. It'll be 10 years for me that I've left my abuser. I did it, and I share so others can be inspired and know that they can do it too. But if there's no other questions, thank you for tuning in. I love you. You can always email me privately. And if you're interested in a private group, by all means, email me too, here on the page. Talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye.